So I wanted to share with you how I'm currently building a network and how I recommend you build your first network. And I thought it was useful to do this now because I'm actually, of course, building the guild network at the moment. So all the principles that I'm using to build a network and what you can use to build your first network, the only difference is I'm kind of doing it on a slightly bigger level, but I think it's useful to know my approach. And this is basically the same approach I talk about in progressive partnerships. It's the same approach I've used for years. And in fact, probably the easiest way to explain it is a few years ago, we wanted to promote some of the public listings that we were in. And here in Singapore, we had quite a funky office. And so we decided that once a month, we would invite business owners and investors to come and meet with us. First thing I would say is you want to start with your first degree connections. So obviously the whole idea of what we're trying to do is to build this new network of investors. And you might say, well, I don't have any investors in my network. What I would say is start with your first degree. So start with the people that you already know. You'll actually be surprised how many of them already do some investing, even if they haven't discussed it with you. There was a book about 30 years ago called The Quiet Millionaire. And it was about the fact that most millionaires in the US were not the kind of big flashy driving around in fast cars and all the watches and all that. They were boring suburban individuals, but they just put their money aside and they put it into investments and they were doing quite well. So it's also much easier to start with people that already trust you rather than going out and having to get over that trust barrier from the start. So start with the people you already know. Now, the way that we did this, we used email and we used LinkedIn. So what I did was I put together a message. I emailed out people that I knew. So I picked like 50 to 100 people, stuck them on an email in a blind copy and said, hey, look, I'm doing a small event for business owners and investors, just an opportunity to get together, no agenda, just an opportunity to talk about investments. And that was pretty much it. I sent that out on LinkedIn to everyone that I was connected to in my city. And the whole idea was that they were just going to come back and if they were interested, they would attend that event. So the first thing is start with your first degree contacts. The second thing is figure out what the value proposition is. Now, if I had gone out to that network and said, hey, come and spend some time with me, I'm really cool, I would still be sitting on my own waiting for people to attend. That's not going to work. But what I realized was that when you talk about the other people that are attending, that becomes the hook that people are interested in. So investors like to meet business owners. They like to meet other investors. Business owners like to meet other business owners and they like to meet investors. And so I deliberately called it business owners and investors. I deliberately said, hey, this is who we're targeting. And therefore we were able to get quite a lot of people that were interested. Now, at this level, I wasn't looking for a hard commitment. It's much easier to get a soft commitment up front. So when I sent the message, I basically said, hey, look, I'm thinking of putting this together. Would you be interested in attending and meeting some other business owners and investors? Just hit reply with yes. Very, very simple for them to do. Very simple. It's not a commitment. And then anyone that said yes, I would then follow up and said, hey, look, this is the date. This is the venue. Please confirm because I need to be tight on numbers. Then what happens is you lose some people because the dates don't work. Some people come back to you and say the dates don't work. Other people say, yes, I'll be there. It really doesn't need to be more complicated than that. The one thing I would say is, and this is the final of the kind of the 3 points, is always overreach or oversubscribe your event. So especially if it's a free event, people tend to be willing to commit, unwilling to give up what they're currently doing on the time. So in my experience, a paid event, you'll probably get 10 to 20% of people. If it's a low ticket, like a $20 event, still 10% or 20% won't show up. If it's a free event, up to 50% of people won't show up because in their mind, if it's free, there's not necessarily the value, there's not the commitment that they've made. So that was fine. I didn't want to make it a paid event. This was my first event. I was just trying to create value. And so I made it a free event. I think our target was 20 people. We ended up getting about 35, 40 commitments for the first event. And I think 18 showed up. So it was pretty much exactly what we were expecting. So yeah, those first three things, again, start with your own network. Figure out the value proposition. So use the other people as the value proposition. And the third one is oversubscribe yourself. Basically, get more people than you want. Now, I talk a lot about then and now strategies. So this is the now strategy. Ultimately, we're going to evolve into the then. We want to grow this network. We want people in this network that are not who we already know, but you've got to start somewhere, and we want to get traction. We want to do something quickly and get some results. And so this is the way to get results. I'm doing this exact same model again to get people to join the Guild network. So I'm reaching out to my network, I'm reaching out to my newsletters. I am doing partnerships as well because I want this to scale to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, but I'm not doing that on day one. I want to get the first group in first. So I start with that. The value proposition is very, very clear. It's how people can build and monetize their networks and be connected to network leaders globally. And then I know reality of the internet is that probably the majority of people, so probably more than 50% of people that I approach aren't going to be interested. In fact, generally kind of as a rule of thumb, if I think back to the in-person event that we were doing in Singapore, probably kind of the numbers stacked out that for every 100 people that we invited, 20 people were interested and 10 people showed up. So I think that's probably quite a good ratio to keep in mind. I suspect with me going for a broader market across the internet using partners, people that don't know me, don't have that trust already, the numbers might be a little bit lower. But for your first event, I would say that's a good target. If you're looking for 10 people, email, reach out to 100 people, use WhatsApp if they're in your WhatsApp group. The more intimate you can be, the better. Just again, comes back to that trust thing. And then, focus on how you can add value and have a great first event. Hope it works for you.